Hi there, if you're watching this video, there's a good chance you like to read books. And if you're like me, there's also a good chance you enjoy reading non-fiction books that help you grow as a person. Before buying my Kindle Oasis over here, I would buy paperback books and read them every single night for about a half hour before going to bed. But one thing that always annoyed me about reading paperback books is I'd always forget what I'd read in one book when I started a new book. It honestly felt like I was wasting so much time reading all these books because I kept forgetting all the information I was reading, and it was really frustrating. So what I ended up doing instead was getting a pen and a notebook and taking notes in my notebook as I read. Now this definitely helped with retaining information. However, it was also super annoying, and it got really discouraging to read books because I kept having this pressure on me to take notes as I read, and it got really frustrating, almost as much as forgetting the information itself. Before I gave up on my reading habit, what I ended up doing was doing some research, and I found out Kindles, one of the main selling points of owning one is digital note-taking. And that's actually why I bought my Kindle Oasis, for that one feature alone, so I could stop writing things down on my notebook. Now after I got my Kindle Oasis and started using it for reading books every single day, I really enjoyed the highlighting feature and the notes feature. It made such a big difference. But I ended up having a new problem. I would never go back and revisit the old highlights I was making from previous books. I'd have to manually go back into my Kindle app and find those highlights. I wasn't actually making the effort to do that though. And that is when I discovered this third-party integration that basically takes all my highlights and brings them back to me automatically so I can revise them regularly and actually have this information stick in my long-term memory. It completely changed the game of owning a Kindle for me. The first thing I want to do is show you exactly how I highlight and take notes while reading a book. Let me actually show you that step by step. I have a book over here, and what I like to do while reading books is highlight liberally. I don't hold back when it comes to highlighting. If something stands out to me, I will highlight it. Whether it's one sentence, one paragraph, or an entire page, I will highlight anything that seems important to me. The reason why I do this is when I come back and want to revisit my notes, I don't like to open up the book and search through the entire book for certain things. I only open up my highlights and notes and do a search in that to find a certain quote or a certain note that I took within that document. It makes it so much quicker to quickly sort through all the top lessons that you learn while reading books. Now, one important thing I do while highlighting on my Kindle is I try my best to leave short notes as I read. Now, typing on a Kindle isn't the most pleasant thing in the world. I do end up making quite a few spelling errors and grammar mistakes. The keyboard isn't the most user-friendly thing. It's kind of annoying, but I don't pay attention to that very much. I try my best to be quick and dirty about it. I don't really care about typos. I just leave a short note. And the reason why I do this is oftentimes while we're reading, we'll have these light bulb moments that go off that really spark something in our minds. And those are the things you really want to capture. You can always go back and find a quote in a book, but one thing you'll never be able to go back and find are those ideas that you had while reading a certain passage in a book. You want to capture those things, just a short sentence, so when you go back and reread it, you'll remember what you were thinking while reading that passage. Honestly, if you don't do anything else in this video, this is the most important part. Just take highlights and notes as you read. These are the things you really need. You can always go back and manually sort through them afterwards, but what I do is use a third-party service called Readwise, and it makes things so much easier. Now, the important thing to know about Readwise is it only works natively with Kindle. You can't use it with Kobo, you can't use it with Nook. It only works directly with Kindle. That's why I love using a Kindle so much. That's why my entire ecosystem of books is on Kindle. It's because of this one app called Readwise. It really makes my life so much easier, and it really requires me to use Kindle for reading. Now, before talking about Readwise too much, I do want to say this is a paid service. I am not sponsored by them by any means. They have no control over what I say about their product, but I do have an affiliate link down below if you're interested. I do have an extended free trial that they're offering for my audience. So if you want to check it out, link down below for that. Let me actually show you what it does and how I use it. Once you have your Readwise account set up, the first thing you want to do is go to the import section in the dashboard and connect some sources. Now, I'll be connecting my Kindle highlights as the primary source for Readwise, but they also offer other connections to things like Twitter, which also makes Readwise a great service for an all-in-one capture system for all your notes and highlights across a multitude of different apps. Once I connect my Kindle account to Readwise, what it's gonna do now is literally import every single highlight I've taken on any book I've read on my Kindle. It's quite amazing to see this. It's really, really cool having all of these things come in to one website where you can easily navigate through them and see everything you've done in the past in a clear, user-friendly way. The cool thing is once you do this one time, in the future now, every time you make a new highlight, it'll automatically sync over to Readwise. This is a one-time step you have to do. There have been a few times where the connection breaks, I have to refresh it, but the majority of the time it's all automatic, done behind the scenes. I really, really love that part of Readwise. And once you have it connected, you simply go into the section over here that shows all your highlights. You see all the books you have on your Kindle. You go to each one, you click on a book and see every highlight that you've made. It's really, really cool just playing around with this. You can favorite highlights, you can see the notes, you can add notes. There's so many things you can do just on the website by connecting your highlights to the Readwise service. One really cool thing that I find very useful is in each highlight you have over here, there's a hyperlink to the location section over here. When you press on that, it'll actually open up the Kindle app on your computer and take you directly to that quote so you can reread that entire page if you'd like. These are the small things that make Readwise such an amazing website to use. I really rely on this for all my Kindle note-taking abilities. Now, as much as I love the website of Readwise, this is actually not how I review my highlights. They actually have a feature specifically designed for reviewing highlights in an automated way, and that is what I use for reviewing my notes. The first thing I do is actually go to the export section of the dashboard, and I've synced up my Notion app as well as Evernote, and what this will do is automatically sync over all my highlights from Readwise into both Notion and Evernote. So whenever I use these apps, I can do a quick search and see all my notes and highlights in those apps without having to go to the website to load anything. That makes my life so much easier because I spend most of my time in Evernote and Notion going through my personal notes. If I want to reference a book I read and a quote that I remember highlighting, I can quickly do that within the app directly without having to go to the Readwise website. Now, these export services are really cool, but I actually prefer using the Readwise app for reviewing my highlights. This is because what they will do every single day is give you the option to review 5 random highlights across all your books and just review them one by one in a nice, easy way in the mobile app. The reason why I enjoy the mobile app so much is because you actually build a streak of doing this every single day. It encourages you not to miss a day, and you'll build this daily habit of going into the app and reviewing 5 random highlights. It's all automated, and I really, really like the streak feature that really encourages you to keep going. I also really appreciate how they choose which highlights to show you. There's a whole scientific method behind it, but they basically find old highlights combined with new highlights and scientifically put them together in a way to put them in your long-term memory. I really like how this whole thing works. It's really, really cool. Now, if using the app is too much effort for you you still have to go into the app and do this every single day. Another way you can do it is via email. Readwise by default will send you a daily email with these 5 random highlights, and that completely removes any friction of you having to do anything. All you have to do every day is check your email, which you're probably already doing, and you can see all the highlights that Readwise is sending you every single day and review them as you check your email. This makes it incredibly easy to constantly review all your Kindle notes and highlights in a daily way and revisit all that amazing information you've read from possibly months or years ago on your Kindle. So to recap my system over here, the first thing I do is actually take notes and highlights liberally on my Kindle as I read. It's really important to put in as much effort you can for highlighting and notes. That is the foundation of the entire system. After that, I use Readwise to export all those notes and highlights into the service and then connect that into services like Evernote and Notion, and also use the Readwise app and email to review all my highlights and notes on a daily basis. It makes it incredibly easy, incredibly automated to constantly see all the notes that you're taking without having to do any extra work. If you enjoyed this video, chances are you'll probably also enjoy my other video talking about physical paperback books versus using a Kindle, where I talk about other reasons besides the note-taking abilities why I prefer using a Kindle over paperback books. Link for that on the screen right now. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time.